Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's video, I wanted to share 6 makeup tips that I wish I had known sooner because they help my makeup to look more natural, to last longer. They help to make my pores and texture look minimized, and they also help my makeup to settle in my wrinkles a whole lot less. So if these are the kind of tips that you can use for your makeup on your aging skin, then stay tuned because these should really help you out. I'm starting this video makeup free. The only thing I have on is some eye makeup because my tips aren't going to really be concerning eyeshadow or eye makeup in this video. I've done a ton of hooded eyeshadow tutorials. They're all on my channel. You can find them there. Today we're going to be mainly concerned with the complexion and the face and kind of making, these parts of the face look better. The parts where we have wrinkles, the parts where we have enlarged pores and some texture and discoloration. So those are the main things that the tips are going to be helping with today. So my number one tip is always to use a tinted sunscreen as the last step of your skincare routine and the first step of your makeup. By using a tinted sunscreen, and in particular a tinted mineral sunscreen, which are my favorites, you can start color correcting your face with a sheer wash of color that evens out your skin tone, and it also acts kind of as a primer by filling in your pores a little bit and smoothing over the surface of your skin. So that way you can eliminate an added makeup step and do something good for your skin by protecting it with sunscreen. So you can see here how I have some redness around my face. I've got some irritation on the sides of my nose from where my glasses sit because I've been wearing them a lot lately. My nose is usually a little bit red, as are my cheeks, just kind of down the T-zone. And most people my age, I find, do have some redness in the center of their face, and using a tinted mineral sunscreen can really help to even out that redness so that you can use less foundation. So rather than putting on a heavy coating of foundation, you do one nice coat of sunscreen, you get your sunscreen protection going, you protect your skin, and at the same time you can reduce the amount of makeup that you're wearing because it's tinted and it's already evened out your skin tone. The sunscreen that I use today is my Healthy Skin Labs Protect sunscreen. This is a mineral tinted SPF 50. It only comes in one shade, so it's not going to match everyone's skin tone, but there are other sunscreens out there that come in lots of different shades, so you should be able to find a match. This one I recommend for more dry skin types because it's very, very hydrating. This is a little bit of a thicker sunscreen. This leaves my skin with that glowy, lit from within look. Another really great tinted mineral sunscreen is the Chromat Ray Reverse. This one is a lot thinner of a texture. It's more lightweight, but it's tinted and it will start to color correct your skin as well. Both of these work beautifully under makeup. I'd recommend the sunscreen more for normal to combo skin types. I put the sunscreen on ahead of time because it takes 15 to 20 minutes for it to dry and set, and that's the ideal thing that you want to do before you apply your makeup. And this is a huge tip that I can give you, is not to try to apply your makeup too soon after your sunscreen, because your sunscreen does need that time to form the protective film. So always try to give it that 15 to 20 minutes. If you don't have the 15 to 20 minutes, then I would say to apply your makeup as gently as you can, which leads us into tip number 2, which is that the tools that you use to apply your makeup really do matter. So while I'm fine with applying my sunscreen with my fingers, when it comes to my foundation or even a tinted moisturizer, I much prefer to use tools that are made specifically for that purpose. If you've never used any kind of a tool to apply your foundation before, then I would highly recommend your first step being a beauty blender sponge or some kind of a blending sponge. These are really awesome for helping your makeup to look much more natural, even with like a full coverage foundation, because they absorb some of the makeup, so they don't put as much down onto your skin. And you use this damp, and so when you first get a beauty blender, they're much smaller, and so you rinse it under water until it puffs up, and then you need to squeeze it inside a towel or a paper towel to get all the excess water out. So it is a little bit of extra work to use a blending sponge, and I think that's why I eventually got away from it and went to makeup brushes. If I'm really recommending that something to invest in, I would recommend a really good foundation brush. But this is a really good starter thing. If you've never used anything but your fingers, you'll be really amazed at the difference in your foundation. It will not have any streaks or smudges or smears in it. It'll go on much more evenly, much more natural looking. So if you are using a full coverage foundation, then I would definitely recommend using a blending sponge. Dampen it, apply your makeup with it, and it will make it look so beautiful. But I gotta say, like going to the bathroom, wetting it, wringing it out, getting makeup in the towel that I was using to wring it out with, it got old after a little while, and I started using less full coverage makeup. I started using more sheer, lightweight, lighter coverage makeup, and that doesn't really go on great with a blending sponge because it absorbs too much of the makeup and you don't get enough on your skin to even out your skin tone. I do still use a blending sponge on occasion, but when I'm doing my makeup on a daily basis, I always reach for my favorite foundation brush. This is the BK Beauty 101 brush. This is such a great foundation brush because it's got this domed shape here and the length of the hairs are tapered, so they're longer here on this side and shorter here on this side. It's very dense, but the fibers are very, very soft on this. And that is what I think makes this a perfect foundation brush. Because it's kind of shaped like the sponge and you use it in a stippling motion, it just lays the foundation down so beautifully and you never get any streaks with your foundation. Unlike the sponge, this lays more of the foundation onto your face, and so using a lighter weight foundation, you do get a little bit more coverage out of it. And no matter which one of these you use, tip number 3 is to press your foundation into the skin rather than dragging it over the skin. I know we all see all these, TikTok and Instagram videos where people are, swiping the foundation on. Makes it go on a little bit streaky, and it also runs the potential of removing some of your sunscreen. You don't want to be like ruffling up your skin. You want to be pressing your foundation into your skin, and that's what gives you the smoothest coverage. For the demo today, I'm going to be using my CL Tint and Protect. This is actually an SPF 50 tinted serum foundation. This is lightweight and fluid. It's got a lot of glow to it, so it's going to help the skin to look more youthful. You're not going to look like you have on a heavy mask of makeup. So that's what I'm going to use to demo this today. This one works great with a brush. This one has a dropper, so I'm just going to put a little bit of this out on the back of my hand. I just dot it around onto the areas that I need more coverage. Then I pick up whatever's left on my hand, I work it into the brush, and then I start stippling the foundation onto my face. And I kind of just pick it up from all of those spots where I laid it down first. You'll notice that one place that I didn't put it was on my upper lip. This is an area where our skin tends to wrinkle up first, and so less is definitely more in this area. So I never put any foundation directly there. After I pick it up from another area, then I go into my upper lip and I try to use as little foundation as I possibly can on my upper lip. So I'm concentrating the makeup around my T-zone where I have more redness, and then just blending it into the areas where my skin doesn't really need that much coverage, so it looks much more natural. So you can see how that added another layer of coverage, so it evened out my skin tone a little bit more, but it still doesn't look like a heavy mask of makeup. So you may have noticed while I was applying the foundation that I didn't put anything underneath my eyes. I do have my tinted sunscreen there, so it's already started color correcting under my eyes. Now I am going to apply my under eye concealer, but because I have the tinted sunscreen on under there, I can use much, much less of the concealer. And that's tip number 4, is that less is more with more mature skin. The concealer I'm going to use today is the Haus Labs Triclone Concealer. This is in the shade 23. Oh. My doe foot applicator broke off. Yikes. Okay, hold on. I do want to use this, so let me grab, I'm just going to grab an applicator out of a different bottle. Okay, I've got it all mopped off. Let me go ahead and grab some of this. What I usually do to make sure that I don't apply too much concealer is that I always wipe off any excess on the wand back into the bottle. And then I place my concealer just at the inner corner where I have that discoloration. And I just put on a little triangle of concealer like that, and that much I'm going to use to even out all underneath my eyes. It's going to color correct all underneath. You know, you can always add more later, but it's hard to take it away. So I would start with just the tiniest amount first. So back to the idea that tools matter, I definitely recommend getting a really good quality concealer brush. This is my concealer brush. It's my A506 brush with BK Beauty. And this is very similar to their foundation brush. I actually modeled it after that one. Using a blending sponge, it just removed too much of the concealer and I didn't get enough coverage. Once I created this brush, oh my gosh, it really changed my concealer game. You press it and stipple it rather than dragging. So basically I start patting it into the concealer, working it into the brush. I just bring it across using those same patting motions. And you can see that even with just little patting motions, it spreads the concealer under my eyes, but it's leaving most of the concealer concentrated at the inner corner where I have my discolorations, and it's putting just the tiniest bit of concealer out here where most of my bigger wrinkles are. So, you know, when I smile, I have my crow's feet, and I don't want my concealer settling in those wrinkles and making my skin look wrinklier than it is. So that's why it's best to keep it more at the inner corner, just stipple it across, and that way you get the least amount on here, because definitely with older skin and makeup, less is more. But look how beautiful and smooth that looks. And because it's just the thinnest coat of concealer, it's going to have much less chance to settle into my creases. Tip number 5 is to erase pores and under eye puffiness with setting powder. Now, I know that a lot of more mature people don't like to use setting powder. For some reason, they've gotten the memo that setting powder is drying, it will make your makeup look cakey, and just once you're over a certain age, you just have to say no to it and you can't use it. But I have done enough under eye concealer testing videos that when I use a setting powder under my eyes, my under eye concealer creases less, it lasts longer, and it just looks smoother and better in general. I mean, even in the video that I have that I showed how to keep your under eye concealer from creasing, people comment, well, of course it looks crease free, you've got a blurring filter on that eye. And I'm like, no, I never use any kind of filters in any of my videos. What you're seeing is the power of setting powder. It blurs away your pores, it blurs away your eye bags, and it just makes your makeup sit better on your skin. Now that said, how you apply it has a huge effect on how it will look, and also which setting powder you use also has a big effect on how it will look. So I highly recommend only using a loose powder. This is a new one to me, but I've been actually really enjoying it and using it a lot. It's a Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. My longtime favorite has been the NYX Mineral Matte Powder. That one's fantastic. The thing I like about these two is that they come in shades, so you can get something kind of close to your skin tone, or you can get them in translucent. So no matter what you like, they have a shade for you. The other thing that I like about these powders is they're not completely 100% matte. They're not a flat matte, and they won't make your makeup look dry and cakey. So they look really, really good on the skin, but they also have the most amazing like blurring effect that I'll show you in a second. So these are great. I'm gonna use the Maybelline Fit Me just because I haven't used it in a video before. I'm wearing it in the shade 15 Light, and I'm going to apply it with my BK 108 brush. This is a fantastic little brush. It's my favorite for doing my setting powder because I don't want to use a huge fluffy brush like this to apply my setting powder, because I don't want setting powder all over every inch of my face. What I want to do with setting powder, and this is really the tip, is to use it strategically on the areas that you need a little bit of blurring and a little bit of setting. And that will help your makeup to look so much better in those areas, but you really don't need it everywhere. I find that I really never set, you know, the top of my forehead, out around to the sides. My problem areas are under eye puffiness, enlarged pores on the fronts of my cheeks. I don't like my upper lip to look sweaty. And it does most of the time with, you know, the more luminous foundations that I use. I like to set the makeup on my chin just because it tends to wear off here faster. And I also have a lot of texture right up here. So those are the places that I like to set and am going to set. To use a loose powder, you just tap some into the lid, and then you really want to work the powder into your brush. So I've got about this much powder in there. I'm going to just start swirling the brush into the powder, getting it worked into the brush on all sides. Now I'm not going to pick up all the powder that I had in the lid. You can see there's still some in there. Then you want to tap off your brush. So you're actually tapping quite a bit of the powder back into the lid. So this way you're not ending up with a ton of powder. So you can see how much I put back in the lid there. So I'm gonna set this side of my face and I'm gonna leave this side of my face unset just to show you the power of the setting powder. When you apply it, you wanna press it into the skin. You don't wanna just like puff it around or swipe it over. So I just start at the inner corner of my eye and I press it onto the concealer. And I always make sure that I'm pressing in an outward kind of motion. Make sure that you're not, wrinkling up your skin when you're pressing this on. Then I bring it down the side of my nose and I bring it just to the middle of the front of my cheek where my pores are enlarged. And I'm just gonna keep dipping back into the lid, picking up and tapping off powder. Now I'm gonna do this textured area right up here. I'm gonna do my upper lip on this side. And I'm just gonna bring it down to my chin. Now, my foundation tends to settle a lot right in my smile line here. So I find that if I just put a little bit of extra powder right in that smile line, it helps to keep the foundation from creasing in there. Also, setting under the eyes helps the concealer not to crease under my eyes. So you can see that this side, it's almost like there's a blurring filter applied. My under eye bag is much less pronounced. My enlarged pores are much less pronounced. My lip doesn't look sweaty. My textured skin here is much less pronounced. It just looks overall smoother, but it didn't ruin the effect of my makeup. It didn't make it look cakey. It didn't make it look heavy. It just makes everything look better. This is almost like a magic blurring wand. And if someone told you that you could have a magic blurring wand to make your makeup look better, wouldn't you want that? I would. But it's funny to me how people are so resistant to setting powder. I think it might be because, when we grew up, setting powders, they weren't great formulations. They were all pressed powders. They were very heavy. They did make your makeup look cakey. And now, the formulations have advanced a lot in the last, 20, 30, 40, 50 years since we were teenagers and started using makeup. What light does is it bounces off the high points of our face, but it also leaves the low point in more of a shadow. And so when you mattify that, you don't get that bright light versus dark shadow. And it's really the light and the shadow that makes things stand out on your face, which is why mattifying works so well, because it just eliminates that bright light shadow contrast. And it's really that contrast that shows the imperfections on your face. So let me go ahead and even this up on this side. And it only takes an extra second to do, like it doesn't really take a long time to do the setting powder. I think it just makes such a huge difference in how my makeup looks, and it also makes me feel so much more confident. When I go out in the world and I feel like my face looks greasy and every pore is accentuated and every wrinkle is accentuated, I just don't feel that great about myself. But when I put on setting powder, work it in, get it looking good, then I go out into the world and I feel like $1,000,000, and that's what I want for you with your makeup as well. And then my last tip for today's video is not to get totally obsessed with what you're seeing in your magnifying mirror. Now, as we get older, I know I couldn't even put on my makeup without a magnifying mirror. So this is an indispensable part of my makeup routine, but I have to take what it tells me with a grain of salt, right? Because if I just look at this and I look at every inch of my face in it and I can see every pore and I can see every discoloration, it's gonna tell me to keep piling makeup on where I don't really need to pile on any more makeup. When you're applying your makeup, put down the magnifying mirror, look in a regular mirror, see how it looks from a distance. And if your under eye darkness is covered from a distance, then that's enough coverage. If your age spot looks covered from a distance, but in your magnifying mirror, you can still see it, it's covered enough. You definitely need it to put on your eyeliner, to put on your mascara. Make sure you don't have mascara all over your eyelid. Definitely check your makeup with it at the end and periodically throughout, but don't rely on it. So here's what the makeup looks like from a distance. It looks really, really nice, and this is kind of the thing that you should concentrate on. Those were my 6 tips for today's video of how to get your complexion, your makeup looking great and looking nice and natural. And a lot of using makeup comes down to trial and error. What works for my face shape and the way I like my makeup might not work perfectly for you, but I hope that some of these tips and tricks have helped you to get your makeup going on, looking much better. Interesting. I got this new blush in from Rare Beauty, and I feel like it's hard to blend, but once I get it on, oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. Let me just finish up with a little lippy. These tips and tricks have really helped with my makeup application, and I hope that they can help you as well. So if you enjoyed the video and found it helpful and informative, go ahead and give the video a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. As always, I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.